In a quiet neighborhood just outside of Minneapolis, police responded to what appeared to be a burglary gone wrong. The home was immaculate, too immaculate. No signs of forced entry, no disarray, no bloody footprints. The victim, 29-year-old Julia Hartley, was found in her bedroom, strangled with a silk scarf, her body placed deliberately as if in a movie scene. Everything screamed staged. But what truly raised red flags? The cleanliness. Too sterile, too thoughtful. Forensics had seen messy scenes. This wasn't one, and that made it suspicious. This is the story of Daniel Greaves, a seemingly loving boyfriend, a meticulous planner, and a man who thought he had executed the perfect murder. But in his obsession to erase every trace of his guilt, he missed one tiny detail. One microscopic slip that exposed everything. Julia Hartley was the kind of person everyone remembered. She had an energy about her, bright, unassuming, yet quietly magnetic. A young art therapist who had dedicated her life to working with trauma survivors, Julia was described by friends as radiant, grounded, and deeply empathetic. Her passion was healing others, even when her own past was riddled with pain. Her mother had died of cancer when she was 14, and she was raised by a single father who struggled with depression. Despite the hardship, Julia took on responsibility early, often acting as the emotional anchor for her father. She helped raise her younger cousin when her aunt became addicted to opioids, volunteered at the local shelter, and pursued a career in therapy because she believed that healing was possible for everyone, no matter how dark their past. She had recently landed a position at the Morning Light Wellness Center, working with children and teens who had endured abuse. She had just purchased a quaint two-bedroom cottage in a quiet suburb. Her walls were decorated with her own colorful oil paintings, mostly abstract, but always warm. Her favorite was a large canvas in the hallway, layered with orange and blue swirls. To her, it symbolized survival. Julia was also in a relationship that, to outsiders, looked perfect. Daniel Greaves, 33, worked in finance, had a reputation for being polite and soft-spoken, and was often seen bringing Julia flowers or taking her out on quiet date nights. But those closest to her had begun noticing changes. She seemed more anxious, constantly checking her phone. Her best friend, Monica, recalled how Julia once burst into tears during brunch after receiving a message. "He just gets nervous when I don't reply quickly," Julia said, brushing it off. "He means well." But the concern lingered. Julia had recently started keeping a journal again, something she hadn't done since college. Her last few entries, discovered after her death, painted a disturbing picture. "He watches everything I do. He showed up outside my work today, unannounced. I think he's been in my house when I wasn't home." It was a Wednesday morning when police were called to Julia's home. A neighbor had noticed the front porch light had been on for 3 nights straight, and mail was piling up. Officer Kenton, who was first on the scene, later recalled that something felt off immediately. "It wasn't just quiet," he said. "It felt curated, like someone had cleaned it not just to hide a mess, but to present a version of the house that wasn't real." The air inside smelled faintly of bleach. Not strong, but unmistakable. The living room was pristine. Pillows fluffed, floors gleaming. But one thing stood out, the absence of anything out of place. No keys on the counter. No dishes in the sink. No clothes on the chair where Julia normally left her jacket. Julia's bedroom was just as strange. She lay on the bed as though posing for a portrait. Her hands folded, her makeup intact, a single strand of hair placed across her forehead. The scarf tied around her neck, later confirmed as the murder weapon, looked almost like a fashion accessory. CSI arrived and began collecting evidence. But there was hardly any. No fingerprints. No signs of a break-in. The door had not been forced. The windows were locked. Even Julia's own prints were oddly absent from surfaces like her phone and doorknobs. It looked like a scene from a movie, a noir film where the killer cleans up, lights a candle, and walks away like nothing happened. But something didn't sit right. When crime scene analysts hit a wall, it's usually because the killer did something smart. But sometimes, they did something too smart. In this case, the breakthrough came from a rookie CSI technician named Leah Vasquez. She had read a case study in a forensic journal about how air filters could trap trace evidence, even when a home had been thoroughly cleaned. On a hunch, she unscrewed the vent cover in the hallway and removed the filter. Inside was a single blonde hair, long, curled at the end, with a follicle intact. It wasn't Julia's. Initial tests matched the DNA to Daniel Greaves. But Daniel claimed he had been at the house earlier that week, and the hair must have shed during a visit. A valid point, except for the fact that Julia had texted Monica the day before she died. Is not allowed here anymore. I told him to stop showing up. Then came the digital forensics. Daniel had deleted his location history. Or so he thought. A security update on his phone had created automatic backups, which showed he had been in Julia's neighborhood at 2:37 a.m. the night she died. Further analysis uncovered a partial fragment of deleted home security footage. A shadowy figure entering Julia's front door, wearing dark clothing and carrying what looked like a duffel bag. The footage was corrupted, but enhancements confirmed the figure's height and gait were consistent with Daniel. Even more damning, the clothes matched a black hoodie and jeans that Daniel owned, but had recently thrown away. The hoodie was later recovered from a city dumpster. Traces of bleach were embedded in the fabric. Daniel was brought in for questioning. At first, calm and collected. He denied everything, claimed he was home alone, sleeping. When confronted with the evidence, he grew defensive. Claimed police were targeting him, that Julia had enemies from her work. But when detectives showed him the search history recovered from his work laptop, his mask began to crack. How to kill someone without leaving a trace. Can bleach erase all DNA? Best temperature to destroy evidence on clothes. How long after death does rigor mortis set in? He had Googled these terms at 1:20 a.m., less than an hour before Julia was murdered. It became clear, Daniel didn't kill in a fit of rage. He planned it. He researched it. He prepared for it. And still, he left a trail. The trial began 9 months later. The courtroom was packed, Julia's co-workers, her former patients, journalists, and curious onlookers. The prosecution painted Daniel as a control-obsessed partner who couldn't handle rejection. They brought in forensic psychologists who testified that his pattern of behavior matched that of coercive control, emotional surveillance, isolation, and manipulation. Text messages showed how he guilted Julia into silence. One read, "After everything I've done for you, you can't even text me back." Witnesses included Julia's co-workers, her friend Monica, and a barista who remembered seeing Daniel parked outside Julia's home 2 nights before the murder. The defense argued there was no direct proof Daniel killed her. They blamed contaminated evidence, suggested someone framed him, and pointed fingers at Julia's troubled clients. But the jury wasn't buying it. On the final day of trial, Daniel sat stone-faced as the jury returned their verdict. Guilty of first-degree murder. Julia's sister read a victim impact statement through tears. You tried to erase her. You tried to bleach her memory from this world. But you left one hair, one thread, and it was enough to pull down the mask you wore. You didn't just murder my sister. You murdered her future. But we'll never let you erase her past. Daniel was sentenced to life without parole. In true crime, we often look for what's visible, the bloody footprint, the broken lock, the frantic 911 call. But in the most chilling cases, it's what's missing that matters most. Daniel Greaves thought he had committed the perfect murder. But perfection is impossible. His downfall was in his obsession to control every detail. So much so, that he left the only one that mattered. A single hair, caught in an air vent. Forgotten, invisible. Justice doesn't always come in screams or gunshots. Sometimes it comes quietly. In the trace. In the silence. In what the killer forgets. If this case left you stunned, remember, it's the smallest clues that often tell the biggest stories. For more gripping true crime cases that expose the cracks beneath the surface, subscribe to True Crime Hub. Tap the bell to be notified when a new story drops. Share your thoughts below. Do you think Daniel would have gotten away with it if not for that one microscopic mistake? Stay aware. Stay informed. And always remember, evil tries to hide, but truth finds a way.